So this is the final little video for this unit 4. So we're going to look at the clause from 3 perspectives. And so at the end of this video, you should be able to analyze the elements of a clause in terms of subject, finite, predicator, complement, and adjunct, explain the different kinds of verbal processes, material, behavioral, verbal, mental, relational, existential, relate different participants to the process types, and analyze clause complexes for theme and reme. So, we take these blocks, nominal groups, verbal groups, prepositional phrases, and they can construct the clause as exchange, the clause as representation, or the clause as message. And each of these types of grammatical information belong to the different metafunctions of language. So, the clause as exchange, which is constructed through mood, is part of the interpersonal metafunction of language. Clause as representation, which is constructed through transitivity, who does what to whom, constructs the ideational metafunction. And theme and reme, the clause as message, is a part of the textual metafunction. So let's look at the clause as exchange, which consists of these parts. Now, when we think about the interpersonal, what are we doing every time we open our mouths and utter something? Well, we could be giving goods and services, so I can offer you something. Would you like some coffee? If I offer you information, I just use a statement. He's making the coffee. Here you go. Here's some information. He's making the coffee. I can demand something from you. Give me some coffee. Or I can ask you for information. What is he making? Okay. And so, Halliday theorized that we establish relationships with our interlocutors through our grammatical mood. Now, obviously, we know that there are indirect speech acts and we can do this in other ways, but that these things are sort of built into the language, right? And we already know this, that declarative mood, subject goes before the finite. He is here. Interrogative mood, if it's a yes, no, the finite goes before the subject. Is he here? If it's a WH subject question, who is here? We put the subject before the finite. If it's WH as a complement, who did he bring, right? Then we still have the WH before the finite and then the subject. Imperative mood, right? There's no subject, no finite. We just have the predicator. Let's look at this dialogue from Monty Python, the argument sketch. Look, let's get this thing clear. I quite definitely told you. No, you did not. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. You didn't. Did. Oh, look, this isn't an argument. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. It's just contradiction. No, it isn't. It is. It is not. Look, you just contradicted me. I did not. Oh, you did. Okay, the interesting thing about this dialogue is it's got very little content, right? What it does have is a lot of mood, finite, right? With subject and finite. And that's what mood consists of. Mood is constructed through the subject and finite. Halliday says that this argument is throwing the finite back and forth. It's interesting that we can do that in English. And the rest of the clause is just called the residue. Okay, so we have mood and residue. The residue is the predicator and any complements and adjuncts. So John was eating a donut at 6 a.m. We have the subject and the finite, right? And that constructs the mood. In the required reading, McCabe 2017, you'll find this exercise where you can try it if you want, where you analyze a text for subject, finite, predicator, right? So here we see subject is the girl, and now they, subject, were freed. We have a finite and a predicator. Once on a time, when the girl had gone out, finite predicator. So what we see here is all these declarative clauses, right? Which is very typical of a narrative because I'm telling you something. I'm giving you information. Now, the predicator is any existing complements and adjuncts. So I'm ecstatically happy. You have there the mood, the subject, the finite, the residue is intensive complement, right? He baked me a cake yesterday. Mood is the subject, the finite, the predicator, bake. Me a cake yesterday is all part of the residue. Me is an indirect object complement. Cake is a direct object complement. And yesterday is a circumstantial adjunct. Okay. Complements are elements in the clause which could be subjects but which are not. They answer the questions who or what related to the predicator. There are three types. Direct object complement. Mary baked a cake. What did she bake? She baked a cake. Indirect object complements. Mary baked the boys a cake. Who did she bake the cake for? The boys, right? Indirect object. And intensive complements, which occur after copular verbs such as to be, to seem, etc. And so those are just see int, and Mary was very happy. Adjuncts, there are three types. Circumstantial adjuncts, which just tell us time, place, manner, cause, angle, and I'm sure you're familiar with these. Conjunctive adjuncts, however, in addition, etc. And modal adjuncts, which tell us a speaker's take on a proposition. Unfortunately, frankly, sadly, etc. So in the required reading, you'll see complete tables of these different kinds of adjuncts. So now you can analyze a whole clause for the exchange structure. And again, you have some examples here where we have circumstantial adjuncts, direct object complements, indirect object complements, etc. And of course, it's just a conjunction. So again, that's in the required reading for the complete exercise if you're interested. Now, let's look at the clause's representation, and that's assemblies of participants that take part in processes, and there can be surrounding circumstances. In the realm of systemic functional linguistics, the experiential metafunction, nominal groups are considered participants in different kinds of processes. They're being-having processes, which are called relational processes. And as you'll see, each type of process has a different set of participants that take place in them. And I'll be explaining those in a little more detail after this slide. Sang processes are simply verbal processes. Somebody said something. Thinking processes, thinking, feeling processes are mental ones. Behaving processes, and those are involuntary, things like John laughed, John sneezed. Doing processes are material processes, actors, goals, take part in them. So John kicked the ball is an example. Existing processes simply posit the existence of something, and they're called existential processes. And those are your there is, there are constructions. So that's the experiential world in systemic functional linguistics, divided into these 6 process types. Each process types has different set of participants, as I said. So let's look at each one of those in a little more detail. Again, this isn't something that you need to learn or memorize. It can be useful. This is the transitivity of the clause in systemic functional linguistics, which has been used, for example, for critical discourse analysis. So material processes, John kicked the ball, we have an actor and a goal. John achieved, what did he achieve? His objectives. We can't say, what did he do to his objectives, right? It's something he achieved, so it completes the action of the verb. And so that's called a scope. You have recipients, clients, right? And these resultative attributes are interesting, right? John trampled the field flat. Or we can have an instrument, because it's not like the key really opened the door. Somebody used the key to open the door, okay? So those are theorized as being participants in material processes. Verbal processes, John said, that he would come is reported. I'll come is quoted. He asked me something. What did he ask me? If I would go, that's reported. I'm a receiver. John asked a question. That's packaging up what he did into what's called a verbiage. John is a sayer here, and he said something, and in saying that something, it was praise, and so the organization is target. Mental processes, those are easy. We have sensors and phenomenon, right? And a phenomenon can be a whole clause. So there we have a clause, right? A noun clause. That's the phenomenon of the process loves. Relational clauses are simply the to be and to have kind of clauses where something is just related to something else. In this case, the first two cases, we have a carrier with an attribute. And these kinds of clauses are identifying clauses. The boss is John. John is the boss. We also have existential clauses, right? And all those consist of really is an existent. Many different kinds of people exist in this world. So now we can do that second layer of analysis. So this is our experiential, our clause as experience. Before we saw the clause as exchange with a subject and finite, and now this is how we're constructing the world through experience. So again, you can have a look at that exercise in the materials that are on or that are in the Google Drive folder to see if you'd like to, give a try to what's happening experientially in these clauses. The final layer, remember we have three, is the clause's message, which is part of the textual metafunction. And we have these two parts, theme and reme. So theme is the first experiential element of the clause. It's the point of departure of the clause's message, or as Bloor and Bloor say, the idea represented by the constituent at the starting point of the clause. And reme is simply everything else. So we can think about, there are two ways of thinking about the textual metafunction. One is theme and one is information structure. So information structure is what's given and what's new. And especially in written text, often we like the theme to be given. What was John up to today? He was eating a donut at 6 a.m. So here we have the given coinciding with theme, and the reme is telling us something new, right? So we tend to like to line the theme and reme with our given and new. What did John do this morning? Well, it's 6 a.m., so that refers to this morning, right? He was eating a donut. So again, we have given and new. Who called? John called. Now, in English, we have to put the subject, right, before the verb. It's interesting, in Spanish, you could say, quien llamó, llamó Juan. In English, we can't do that, so we can't always align our theme with given and our reme with new. We do have this thing called theme predication, okay? It was John who called, right? So there we have the theme. We have a little bit of given here because we have it was John, but we still have to put John before the verb, right? Who called. Now, all clauses have a simple theme, and that's the first experiential element of the clause. It can be a participant, a process, or a circumstance. So, the unmarked case is the subject. The right to knowledge, whatever level, is basic. Okay? Sometimes you can have a complement as theme. So that's a participant. Chocolate I love, licorice I hate. It's not that common in English. It is more common in Spanish. But here we have an example from Anthony Trollope's Framley Parsonage, where you have her, it was his custom to visit. So we have the complement coming first. It's a participant in the clause. We can have the process first. Again, it's very marked. Walk away, he did. Okay. Circumstances, often we do put adjuncts in theme position. Many years ago, I went to London. Okay, so those are examples of experiential themes. The simple theme will also depend on the grammatical mood. It's the first experiential element of the clause, as we've seen. In an interrogative, it would be the process. Is it a right? That should be in green. Who should have that right is really a participant. Sorry, I think I lost my color coding here. I'm not sure why. The imperative, right? Close the door. Again, process as theme. And there are these empty themes. There is no reason. It's difficult to avoid stereotyping. That's where we have it, anticipatory it. Putting the subject to avoid stereotyping is difficult later in the clause, that end weight, okay? And some people analyze when a dependent clause is first. Some people take that as theme because they're functioning in a similar way to circumstances. When something is fun, you like it. Other people would analyze something as theme and you as theme, okay? And that's something that we could discuss if it's interesting to you. There are also multiple themes, so we have to have an experiential theme in a clause, but we can also have a textual and or interpersonal theme. Textual theme is simply a conjunctive adjunct or a conjunction, right? So nevertheless, this kind of teaching could be harmful, but it should be enjoyable, okay? And an interpersonal theme is a modal adjunct. So certainly teachers can make it a lot easier. So the red here is always our right experiential theme, which has to be there. The others are optional. We can bring them all together, but frankly, I just don't get it. So now you know those three ways SFL has of analyzing clauses, right? We have the interpersonal, we have the ideational or experiential, and we have the textual. There are practice exercises in Unit 3 on Google Drive. Sorry, that should say Unit 4. There are practice exercises in Unit 4 on your Google Drive and on our Moodle platform. There's an end of unit reflection, which is due on Thursday, September 4th. And Unit 5 will go on to use SFL for teaching and learning texts and genres. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye.